Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I am your host who has cried several times today over Star Wars, Katie, and joining me as always is Clay. Clay, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty good. Now, I will admit, I fought back the tears as much as I could. No crying today, but I did stay up again, so there was a lot of sleeping today. That was my thing. Um,
I know, I
but
sent you like 8 texts, I think, before you woke up.
I know I I mean, I will say this, guys. We can't talk about it too much. I mean, once we officially announce it, we can. But we have some things planned. It's very fun. Really excited to see how everything turns out. I think this is
And the good
something
news
really
is,
big.
y'all will learn of one of those things next week.
Yes, yes, you will. Um, but really excited to get all of those messages that you did send me, because we got some good news today. So it's all fun. But we have actually two reviews to do today, but we will get more into that after we do, of course, the opening paperwork and everything.
All right, like I said, we are a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network. We have 8 shows, 7 days a week. On Sundays, you've got World's Finest True Believers once a month with Chris, talking about a guest favorite comic of choice. On Mondays, you have Slice of Film one week and Ranger Alliance the next. Tuesdays, you've got DC Alliance. Wednesdays is superhero discussions. Thursdays is Star Wars Alliance. Fridays is Marvel Alliance. And typically, every other Saturday is a walk through the multiverse through the end of the boys. They are airing on Sundays so that they can get those reviews out for your listening pleasure. Um, we have 3 shows that go live every single week. On Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, DC Alliance with Travis and Clay goes live. Wednesdays, you're here if you're here in the chats. Um, it's Star Wars Alliance with Clay and I. And then on Thursday nights, you have Marvel Alliance with Chris and Brent at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those 3 shows do also have their own solo feeds that you can check out, or you can check all 8 shows out on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network, where we are here 24/7 on your favorite podcatcher of choice. There are 3 ways you can support the show and therefore the network. One way is on Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber crystals charged around here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes that may drop. Another very good way to support us that doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time is to write a review on your favorite podcatcher of choice. And I would like to go ahead and announce this now. If you have never rated or reviewed us before, and are in the US, I will send you a copy of Shadow of the Sith next week, hardcover edition from Amazon. All you have to do is send us a review on your favorite podcatcher, to either my DMs, Clay's DMs, or the Star Wars Alliance DMs on Twitter, so you can check us out. There, those reviews slash ratings help put us into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. Um, the other way to support us is by listening to the ads on this podcast. Yes, this podcast is an ad, does have ads in it. Clay or I will give you a warning before those are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud they are, so that warning is just to help you prepare those volume levels. Again, those ads do support us and help keep the lights running around here, so we appreciate you listening to them. With that, we do have a couple pieces of news, because I got everything right.
Yes, yes, you did.
Awesome. High five. I did that pretty well, I feel like. Gotta keep up the positivity of yourself sometimes, guys. And especially since my voice is apparently leaving me. It's not been a problem all day, and now all of a sudden I'm cracking. Jeez. Um, okay. So Cameron Monaghan? Um
M- Monahan, I
Monahan.
think.
Okay.
Yes.
Um Cameron Monaghan is supposedly going to be starring in a live action Cal Kestis Disney Plus series. This is a rumor from Christian Harloff, who he heard from a source that he trusts, and said that Monahan had been approached to do a live action spin off to the Star Wars Jedi video game series. The direct quote, which we have thanks to Star Wars News Net, is rumor, have to say that, not confirmed. Got this from someone I've trusted in the past. Tells me this is a thing. The rumor itself at the moment is that there is a Cal Kestis show in the works for Disney Plus. The rumor is that Monahan actually signed on to play the character from Jedi Fallen Order in a live action series on Disney Plus. There's no production dates set, but my source tells me that this is happening. We've talked about this over and over again. Monahan is an actor. He was pulled in for a reason. You could definitely throw him in anywhere, I feel like.
You definitely can. And then also, we shared this in our uh, Star Wars Alliance chat, while Brent actually shared it in our GUA chat really late last night. And I said
Mhm.
that this is something that can definitely happen because more so, Cal Kestis has been put into Star Wars canon not only in the video games, but as we caught in our Brotherhood review, Cal did make an appearance in a small interaction with Anakin. So
Yep.
the more exposure his character has within his time frame of being within the Skywalker saga, I think it's inevitable that you have to put him either in a show or in a movie or whatnot. And as much as we complain about it, stay out of the Skywalker saga, stay out of the Skywalker saga. Like, I think these other characters that we have fallen in love with, if they have their chance to, broaden their character a little bit more, I think it would be a good idea. I have no problem with this whatsoever. Um, I think that maybe it could do something that's like between the video games, from getting from the ending to one to the beginning of the other. I think that would be fun. But yeah, as of right now, just a rumor. We shall see what happens. But yeah, looking forward to any kind of update to this at all within the next year.
I hope that we get a picture of the upcoming slate at D23. I think that's a
I was
good
gonna
place
ask that.
to
Yeah.
kind of make some good announcements, maybe give an update on Lando because Kathleen Kennedy has said that she's working with Donald Glover to kind of figure out what they can do together. And so you could see a Lando update there, you could see this happen. So it's a big possibility. I don't think I've ever seen Monahan in anything other than maybe Gotham. And what I saw in Gotham was like the Joker scenes that were on, like, going left and right on Twitter, and Joker. So
Now,
we'll see.
I'm pretty sure he was on there's this show, I can't remember what it's called. I think it was on Stars or something, um, that, like, everybody loves. Oh, man, I was thinking about it just today, actually, and now it's completely lost me. I haven't really seen him in anything else either. I think some of the stuff I have seen him in was when he was, like, a child actor, um,
Yeah.
but I loved his character in the game. I think that his character has a lot of weight as far as what we've seen in Riva's character as a Order 66 survivor. And I think that Cal can add a lot to the talk of surviving that horrific event. So
I agree, especially with, what happened today. I I laughed. If you have not seen Moses Ingram's, Instagram story from today, like, go watch it. She was, like, handling the trolls left and right, like, I loved it. So, um, next thing we have on the list, and this is well, okay, let's talk about this. So Ethan Hawke talked with Screen Rant with the Black Phone PR tour that he's doing. So he did an interview. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. She's
Ash,
really huh?
Ashley, I think.
Yeah, I think that's her name. So she does interviews for Screen right now. She was on E News, I think. But she talked with Ethan Hawke and kind of dove into back in 2018, he wanted to be in a Star Wars. And he campaigned left and right, was like, I would like to be here, please let me in. And nothing happened. And so they talked about it. So you said something interesting uh in our Star Wars Alliance chat where you were like, Malik.
Yes. Yes. Um, I think that with his character in Moon Knight and just with some of the other uh characters that he's played recently, he's done a lot in the horror suspense genre, which is not really my cup of tea, but when it's put into franchises that I know and love, I love it because it's something new. So if you give Ethan the role of Malik and play into his specialty of horror and suspense as a Sith Lord, I think that'll work great. I think it would be awesome.
I think so too. Another good option may be like a Death Troopers or gosh, what is that one? Red Harvest. With like the
Yes.
zombie ones. Those could be a really good option, I feel like. Um for me, oh my gosh, I'm having to Google this again. Because I used to know this. Um Ethan Hawke. Okay, so I have seen him in uh please hold. Please hold as I scan. Still not at the end. I have seen him in The Northman and Moon Knight, and that's it. So I don't have any basis
Really?
for yeah.
Okay, so I know that slice of film is shifting into like only newer movies. You know, you're doing really the old movies due to the pandemic and everything else. There's like a little bit of a downtime. If we ever get the chance, we need to watch Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan
Training
Hawke.
Day. Okay, I'm
Yes.
writing that down on my sticky note of doom.
Yes. Training Day was the first movie that I saw Ethan Hawke in. After that, um, gosh, I don't know what else I've seen him in. Let's see here. Uh, Predestination. It's a time travel movie. I've
Oh,
heard good things about that one. That's on my list to watch. But I have not seen it. And then uh Daybreakers was also one that I have seen. It was I believe this is a vampire movie. Yeah. So
okay. Yeah, I'll have to give it a look. Upcoming, I have to because the Lord of the Rings show is coming out in August. Matt has never seen the Lord of the Rings movies except the first one, which I watched with him. So we have to get through Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And then he's never seen John Wick. So we have to go watch John Wick. And then he's never seen a Mission Impossible movie, which this blew my mind the most. So we have to go watch Mission Impossible. So I have a long list, but I'm working on it. I swear. And eventually, at some point, Matt and I will be caught up with all of the old movies that people love. So I think when like we're ready to retire is when we'll finally hit that list, but you know, whatever. Okay. So the next thing on the list, because I completely forgot about this until I said Malik. So we have officially oh, not that screen. That screen. We have officially some new covers.
oh
Oh,
yes.
that's not helpful.
You
So
sent this
yes,
to our Star Wars Alliance chat, and I like this cover is like, oh my god! Like
this
I
is
immediately
so
saw it.
much better
Yeah.
than what's on the book currently. I love this. I love like the Force lightning. I love that Revan has his mask. Um, and I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she's really great too. So this is like definitely a purchase for me. The other ones that we have, Star Wars reads. I read enough of you already. Okay. Um, so Deceived is on here, and Deceived, I got given Deceived by somebody else who wanted me to read it, and it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan, but it was decent. And this cover, it's an enormous improvement. um,
Now,
so
are these
if
officially ready to be pre-ordered? Can I go ahead and pre-order these or not yet?
that would be a question for the Amazon people, because I don't know.
I
I
am
always
double
forget.
checking right now. So these are all under technically Del Rey still.
Yep. It does say that I am on readstarwars.com and they do currently have links to Amazon. Look, there we go. Um,
Boom. All right.
to be released November 1st, 2022. And the other one that we have is the Back to War, which y'all know me. I love the Rogue Squadron books. They're amazing. And so they seem to be going with sticking with the helmet motif for all of these books and then doing some sort of design that kind of fits what's going on. So those are the books that are coming to be available. They have a full list of the Essential Legends collection on readstarwars.com where you can see all of the covers, but also see what has been announced. It's got its own little tag, which I love. I love seeing Legends get some love. But it has them in a fairly release order, I would say, except these did not come out at the same time, but they're all here together. So yeah, they're all here. I highly encourage all if you are interested in any of these books. These were I got I got started. Kenobi is the one I read in this version. And it was a lot easier than the mass market paperbacks. So they're a little more expensive, $4 compared to the mass market. Um, so they're $12.90 versus the mass market price of $8.99 or whatever.
Yeah.
So pick and choose your battles, but these are really some gorgeous covers. So
So I am looking right now because the list reminded me of the Darth Maul Shadow Hunter.
yes,
Um,
that one's on there. That is coming out in August.
it doesn't have it here on Amazon. So I'm gonna have to try to find it somewhere else to give me a link to Amazon because everywhere else, like every link that I'm going to has like older covers and stuff. So
If you click
I
the
will
link
get
that's
to it.
on readstarwars.com, it sends you to the Amazon one.
Boom. All right, writing that down so I can order those all tonight.
Cool. Yay. So those books are all there. Now let's talk about a canon book. So the Convergence summary is up. Um, and it's a doozy. We go back to Iron, where we have to deal with the two planets' royal families planning to marry, and it seems like we're gonna delve into some romance here, which Zoraida killed it um, with a crash of fate with the romance. So I'm excited. Bring it, I say. Um, so we've got and I'm not gonna read it because it's 5 paragraphs long. Way too much for me to read. But it is available on places that the book is being sold, so you can go check that out there. Star Wars News Net, which we get all of our news from, also has the full summary involved. Um, and we did get a sneak preview to the conclusion of Phase 2 of the High Republic. which is Path of Vengeance. And y'all, last week I said Kevin Scott was writing Path of Deceit. That was horribly wrong. I do apologize, Kevin, even though you're probably not listening to this. Like, I was wrong. I'm sorry. So Kevin Scott's Path of Vengeance is the upcoming is this will be the second young adult novel, which is set to release on May 2nd, 2023, and it reads the thrilling conclusion to phase 2 of the #1 New York Times bestselling High Republic series. What do you think about that?
I am super excited. I mean, it's High Republic. We have praised these books so much. We're getting closer and closer to phase 2. You know, you have introduced me to the novels of this series, and I didn't think that Star Wars could get any better than what I am literally seeing on screen. But like, I read a quote about like podcasts and audiobooks in general by Kevin Smith, and how like just like reading and audiobooks and podcasts can like just open your brain a little bit more, and like you can imagine a little bit more. And I love everything that we have been reading. There is some nitpicky stuff. Yes, I know. We'll get into that when we are reviewing another book in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But really, really excited about this. Really, really excited to see how well these stories, quote unquote, connect with us moving so far into the past, and how they could still feel fluid when reading, um, timeline wise.
Yeah, I'm excited. And oh gosh, I can't say that. I can't say that. No, I love how these stories are being interweaved throughout Star Wars storytelling. Just in general, it's really well done. Um, and I can't wait. I'm I'm like debating going ahead and starting my High Republic reread now so that we can be prepared to do our like best like award show for like phase 1 of the High Republic. Um, but I'm also like I joined a book club in my neighborhood, and this is the first non-Star Wars book that I've read in probably 6 months. So I need to do more of this. Uh, because I've been reading a lot of Star Wars, which isn't a bad thing to me, but a lot of people I need real life friends, like people I can meet physically. So we're
I
gonna
need
try.
friends.
I do have friends, but I don't have friends that I can meet physically to talk about Star Wars. So I have a book club tomorrow, so we're gonna see how it goes. I will report back next week. I'm just kidding. Um, so I'm super excited. I'm sad that Convergence was delayed till November. But I really want I'm like begging for it. Like, please, please give me more. But y'all, we are so lucky. We are getting a Star Wars book every month of this year, except for September and December, which I'm like, really? We couldn't get anything in December? Like, that's Christmas. Like, but
Yeah, I mean, it's weird when you think about stuff like this. I mean, as we have seen, as you have shown me with freaking almost 4 freaking cases of freaking Star Wars books, like there is a market for this. And so you would
yeah,
think that this market would have some like sales strategy of like, oh, this is a great Christmas book. This is a great holiday read. So let's
yeah,
go ahead and push it towards more of the winter holidays. And I'm a little disappointed in that, but I can't be too disappointed because how much we are getting. Like
yeah,
we we complain about the marketing and the planning of the live action stuff, but we are not starving for content
no,
at all when it comes to Star Wars. So I'm grateful for that. I'm having a lot of fun reading these books, whether it be pre prequels, or in canon and all of this stuff, like in the midst of the Skywalker saga and stuff like that. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yep. Me too. And y'all, we got some good ones coming. We got some good ones coming. So, I think that brings us to the conclusion of our news talk. So, shall we dive in to non-spoilers on Adam Christopher's Shadow of the Sith?
Yes, we should. So we got the opportunity to read this book early. Um, I did not think this was going to happen. But when we got this awesome email, so I will say this: thank you, the people over at. Oh shoot, what was this? Is this a Del? No, this isn't Del Rey.
This is Del Rey.
This is Del Rey. People over at Del Rey, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. It was
Yep.
a great book. Again, nitpicks. We will get into that when we finally are able to talk spoilers. But Katie, you go first. Your non-spoiler thoughts, some of your highlights, like how'd you feel about reading this book? Because I will say this also real quick before she jumps on. Katie is like you think that people don't have superpowers until Katie's like, "Hey, we got access to these books." And what feels like only 5 hours later, she's like, "I'm done." How? How?
And y'all, I'll say this. He's saying this from experience because we just recently got access to Padawan, and I've already finished it. And we got access to it yesterday. So I can't say
It's
anything. So
I will also say this though. Katie has talked about her superpower on the podcast before. This whole thing about speed reading, and it boggled my mind. But then I was so nervous that I wasn't going to be able to finish this book in time for us to actually talk about it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. I'm going to attempt to steal Katie's superpower. And holy shit, I don't know if it's my ADHD brain that is allowing me to do this, but I was actually able to do it. I was able to actually retain all of the information on like the back half of the book. It was amazing. But okay, Katie, non-spoiler thoughts. How'd you feel about this? Highlights. And also, again, anything we made this agreement before we started recording. Everything that is out there as far as excerpts and like some information on the book, that is okay for us to be talking about. So if you don't want any spoilers, you may want to just skip ahead when we actually start talking other things like of course the Kenobi finale. So just letting you guys know now, but this is the non-spoiler Shadow of the Sith review.
okay, y'all. So I have been waiting for this book, and some of this is going to be a repeat from last week when I gave first impressions, but I've been waiting for this book for ages. I know we have Heir to the Jedi, which is an original trilogy book. Um, it's like I think it's between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. But this is the one I've been waiting for. The one where we get like post Return of the Jedi Luke and see how he's doing. Because like I have read every book in Star Wars Legends past the Truce at Bakura, which is literally the opening chapter is minutes after the end of Return of the Jedi. So I that is like some of my favorite era. And so to get this book, it had a lot of pressure to face with my expectations. I will say that. I still have to go back and give it a reread so that I'm going in with no expectations. Um, but I absolutely loved this. I loved the inclusion of the Acolytes of the Force, which is from Aftermath trilogy. I thought they were a really good usage to put in this book, and whether it's a matter of convenience or whatever, it really worked out for the best. Now there is a lot of things that happen in this book that you're not going to have context for currently, and that can be considered a good or a bad thing, depending on where you're coming from. But you brought up one particular thing, but that's going to be saved for a spoiler discussion because that's a little more spoilery. Um, and so if you have to be prepared to like let go of everything and go, okay, I don't have any context for what's going on here, but they're going to give me context, kind of thing. And I think that helps you broach these chapters that happen with a more open mind. Um, because it's just, if you can let that go, it just opens up a world of possibilities with this book. There are some really good settings that happen, and it brought me right back to some of the things like what is it? The Jedi Academy trilogy by Kevin J. Anderson. Um, there's some really good points of view. Like there's some really good legends drops, and I like in my notes they were written in all chapters. Like holy shit, this is in here. This is now canon. Um, so I can't help it. Sometimes y'all, as much as I've enjoyed Star Wars canon, those Legends books are why I'm a Star Wars fan. And I know I say that over and over again, but those books really do mean a lot to me. So to see them getting inclusion, whether it's in Kenobi, whether it's in a book, it means a lot. So um there's a couple more nitpicky things I have, but they're more spoilery. But this is a very good book. It gives you a lot of perspective into what happens with Rey's parents, Dathan and Miramir, and why they choose to leave her on Jakku. Um, and I thought that was a really great way to expand on the sequel trilogy. But this book is by no means limited to explaining what happens in the sequel trilogy. This is a very good standalone book that leaves some storylines open to be continued, but allows it to stand on its own. And I think that's what made Adam Christopher a really good pick for this book. Um, so I'm I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to read next of his because it just really made me want to dive into some of his other writings to kind of see what all he's done with other books. So yeah, that's
I
kind of a general thoughts.
we talked about it right before we started reading the book that he had written some like Stranger Things tie-ins or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, I am not caught up on Stranger Things. I've only seen
I'm
the
not
first
either.
season.
So
But I might be interested to catch up just so I can read his book because I think you're correct in the sense of he did this book justice. There were so many things in here that almost like, and this is the smallest of spoilers I will say now, the same thoughts that a lot of people had with the idea of the Kenobi series, and then how that kind of mirrors the idea of what is placed in like the very beginning chapters of Shadow of the Sith. I very much had that, and he played it off very well. Um, so I will give kudos to him. Um, One thing that we do know about this book is that it's about Luke and Lando, and I found myself like once or twice saying, "Why Luke and Lando?" Like that is such an odd pairing compared to us seeing Lando team up with Han and be with Leia and Chewbacca. And I'm like, okay, well, we've seen all that. What we haven't seen is Luke and Lando. And just because of what they are both going through, I think that that pairing worked very, very well throughout the entire book. I think um, they kind of bounced off each other. The one thing that I love about Lando, which I actually hated when I like first saw him as a character, he's just like Han. He's a little smug. He's a little full of himself. But like the one thing that I love that friends do is they can dog on each other, they can yell and scream and get mad and whatnot, and then like this small awkward silence, they can immediately like smile at each other and be like, man, like let's go ahead and go beat the bad guys or something. And there was moments of that in here that I really enjoyed between those two characters. Um, but you mentioned Mir and Dathan, their story. My God, um, I will say this also: there's going to be pulling at the heartstrings for people who
Yeah.
want to buy this book and read their story, especially near the end. Jesus, we will get into that again when we can talk spoilers about it. um, but yeah, those are my overall thoughts. I love this book. Like I said, being a book that is a little bit more with the familiar characters of Star Wars compared to that of the High Republic, I'm very new to this. I have this bookshelf right behind me that in the sense of the familiar, I only have Brotherhood right now, and then Shadow of the Sith is coming at the end of the month. I don't have anything else other than the Legends books, and then Tales of Jedi and Sith, which I still need to read, and then Ronin. So I literally have only read. Oh, and technically, um, Dooku Lost. I
Yeah.
listened to in an audiobook. So I haven't gotten too much into the canon books that are in the heart of the Skywalker saga too much. And this felt awesome. Um, Nathan had always said, in regards to our conversations of The Last Jedi, that wasn't the Luke that I know and love, and, all this other stuff. And seeing Luke in Shadow of the Sith, I'm like, oh, now I get it. I understand where people like are coming from, in the sense of like there was this adventurous, like brave, badass Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
and now I'm like, okay, I'm all in. Like I want more of that. I do want to see a little bit more of that. So, really fun read. Really looking forward to talking spoilers eventually.
Yeah. They're they need to continue to flesh out Luke's story, and they probably will start on live action, but I really hope they take it in a direction of exploring with the books to really get into more of a nuanced take. And Nathan, I know that's not your favorite take on Star Wars, the nuanced takes. But Obi-Wan Kenobi was so beautiful in the fact that they stuck to nuance and trying to tell a greater story versus just a rematch between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I hope we get more of that. That has been some of the most beautiful storytelling out of the High Republic, and I'm glad to see it continue with Brotherhood. Brotherhood was more light. It wasn't as nuanced, but it was still a very good Clone Wars retelling. It felt like we were jumping into an episode of the Clone Wars,
Yeah.
but this was it reminded me so much of just in it, but it really works. So I think I like wrote over myself and like corrected myself like 3 times in that sentence. I'm sorry. You will understand when we are able. And we could talk spoilers right now, y'all. The embargo's up and we could talk plenty of it. We're just not going to because the book's not even out yet. So,
Yeah, we want everybody to have the chance and to read it, and we have people that we are close to, the GV Geekverse guys, that actually want to read this book also. Even though Snell doesn't listen to Star Wars Alliance, don't want to spoil it, because maybe Taylor will listen, and we don't want to
yeah.
spoil it for him. But yeah,
But
uh,
I know John is planning on grabbing it. Chris is planning on grabbing it. So there's a lot of listeners out there that we have that we just want y'all to be able to enjoy this. But we wanted to give our perspective um and go ahead and give you like a little non-spoiler thoughts if like you needed some help crossing over the boundary line. So all right, 40 minutes on the dot. There's your time marker. Um without ads, of course. For if people want to jump over.
oh yeah, for the not for the spoiler-ish talk for Shadow of the Sith. But
Some people
now,
may want to go into it blind. We wanted to go into it blind.
yeah, yeah,
So,
very true, very true. So we talking Kenobi now? Is that what we're
yeah.
doing? All right. So let's do non-spoiler thoughts and then go into spoilers. So Katie, uh, I'm pretty sure you didn't stay up last night to watch this. You probably
No, I'm
woke up this morning to watch it.
I'm on a muscle relaxer and I don't have to write reviews right now, though I do have a written review coming this weekend.
Awesome.
Um, so I because I'm on a muscle relaxer, I didn't want to do it. So we got up at 5:30 this morning and we watched it. And right off the bat, at least with the sun not coming in, I can tell you that this is probably the best directed and well lit dark episode that's on Disney Plus. Now,
I could agree with that.
watching it during dinner with the sun streaming in the windows was a completely different story. I could not see a wink of some of these shots. Like, so, and can we have stories that are told in the daylight or a well lit city, please?
I think that
I'm
it's a
talking in
little bit
Marvel
harder.
and everything.
I think it's a little bit harder because in the dark, again, you can get away with more CG stuff. I think it's easier to film in the volume in the like in a dark setting. Um,
Mhm.
so that's the excuse that I'm giving them. So
Which, and that's completely fair because the volume effects, we've talked about that with some of the fights that we've had on screen, and they were really noticeable. In this instance, they weren't noticeable because you couldn't see anything on screen. So, I love you, Star Wars. Hey, you can still critique Star Wars. There was a lot of this today. You can still critique Star Wars and still love Star Wars, and you can still love an episode. So, y'all, we want to welcome every opinion as long as it's not aggressive opinions. So,
yes, yes. Um, as far as my non-spoiler thoughts, um, the stuff that I loved, I absolutely loved. The stuff that wasn't so great, I could make excuses for to really enjoy the episode. So nothing was really bad in my mind. There was some silly instances, I think, in my
mhm,
opinion. But I do think because of the way these shows are paced, um, because I know that Kevin Feige said with the Marvel stuff is you can't think of it as a show. You have to think of it as a long movie that is cut up into parts. Whereas
which is
I'm not
dumb,
entirely
but
sure. I'm not entirely sure if that is how Lucasfilm is making their Star Wars shows. Um, but with this, I absolutely enjoyed what I saw. There is some questionable things, like I said, and I will get Katie's opinion on those. But overall, I think this is a point to the win column for Lucasfilm and Disney Plus. It is definitely not a Boba Fett. It is definitely not a Bad Batch. As far as like harshly critiqued um into the negative with some people, this has been, I've seen it everywhere. People love this show, and that is a good thing. So that's it for my non-spoiler thoughts. Katie, where do you want to jump in, like for
well,
this
I,
final
I
episode?
I didn't talk about my non-spoiler thoughts. I really thought this was a great episode. I definitely cried at one point and quite possibly could have cried at another point. But it really shows a lot of growth in Obi-Wan Kenobi as a character, and I really appreciate that. Y'all know I'm all about my characters around here, so if I can feel some growth, I'm gonna love it. This is definitely this has been the only Disney Plus show that I've wanted to consistently go back and rewatch. Uh, point blank. Matter of fact, like Mandalorian reviews, I only watched it once. It's just I that's what I did. Because I felt like I knew the story well enough, but there was so much that I wanted to pick out of these episodes and go, okay, I need to see that again. What exactly is she doing? Like, and like delve deeper into the story. And I think that's a beautiful way to tell stories. Um, and just kind of one more like non-story related thought. Um, give Deborah Chow anything she wants. Give her a movie budget. Get her off of the volume, and let's see some other things from her where she can work with an actual set and not have to depend on re-imaging or being stuck in a circular set. So yeah, I think everyone can agree with that. So except except maybe Nathan. Nathan did pop up in the beginning. I don't know if he's still here. And he said, "What a letdown," to put it nicely, which I appreciate, Nathan. I appreciate that greatly. I will never watch the show again. Very disappointed in all involved in this atrocity. Uh, I handedly disagree with you, Nathan. I'm sorry. Um, still love you though. Still love you.
We know that we like, even I will say this. One of the first things that I said on the guys over at Geek First when they reviewed this at my time, 3 a.m. I jumped in there to kind of see what their thoughts were. And my first comment was, man, all of my predictions were wrong. Um, and I'm okay with it
Hey, you
because
predicted Qui-Gon.
no. Joe did. I will
Oh
say
yeah.
Joe was right, because our thing is, it is canon that he was not, quote unquote, supposed to have a force ghost body. He was only
Yeah.
able to have a manifestation of his voice. And I guess
And
that is
to to add on to that, because I think Joe argued with me on that and said, well, Darth Vader has a Anakin Skywalker has a body, but he's burned alive. I I didn't think of this then, but Vader is 50% electronics, and you only see the helmet when he's burned, like with the body. So
yeah.
his torso and his head could have completely disappeared. And it may have still worked. So I
Now,
still think this is fudging the lines a little bit.
yeah, and sorry guys, that was a little bit of spoilers for what happens at the end, but it's something that everybody had predicted. Um, I think
And
it's
it's
something that,
trending on Twitter. So
and it is something that needed to happen, I feel like, especially in the
yeah.
direction that we all knew Obi-Wan was needing to go to match up with that of A New Hope. So now, let's go ahead and jump into uh, the spoilers. S-Bubs, he did say earlier that he was halfway through. He has now finished the episode. He says, just finished Kenobi, and I still feel the same about it. The show was a solid 4 out of 5, but I didn't feel like it reached the next level. This episode was really well shot and directed, though. Episode 2 is still my favorite. So, Katie, we really have, in the sense of, let's just lay it out as far as like the points to really talk about. We have the um we have Riva's story. We have the uh round 2 of Kenobi and Darth Vader. Then we have the Leia scenes, and then we have the ending. That is really the way, that's just like 4 talking points. Um, I feel like, because it was one of our biggest predictions last week, let's talk about Riva before we jump into Darth Vader and Kenobi.
Yes, I have to get this out of the way. I have to get
Okay.
this out of the way. I don't like how Riva teleported to Tatooine. That
That's
bugged the ever loving shit out of me, to the point where I could not process what happened this morning when I saw it. I was like, okay, I need a second watch because that just completely took me out of it. And Matt, Matt did try to play like devil's advocate and everything and was like, well, maybe these aren't happening at the same time. Maybe we just kind of skip ahead in Reva's storyline and then they're mirrored. When really Obi-Wan is probably buried at the time that Reva actually gets to Tatooine. Which makes sense to me. Don't get me wrong.
Okay,
Definitely
I
makes sense.
didn't really see it in that way, but I could totally I can headcanon that, you know? That was the
I
big
can headcanon
conversation
that.
last week. Yeah.
Yes. Uh, I think it still really bugs me that at least we didn't see her get in a ship or anything, because as far as we know, she was left stranded on Jabeam. The one ship that was working, was torn to pieces by Darth Vader, and was unflyable in Reva's current condition, at least. And she was left there on her own, and it was a desert planet. So, like, I'm not sold. Even though I would like to headcanon it, it it was it I that really took me out of it. And to the point where trying to watch it again this at dinner, it was like, "Oh, I completely missed that," because I was still so focused on, "How the fuck did she get here?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're told hyperspace travel, if you're going in the right direction with the right path, hyperspace travel can still take up to 12 hours in, like, a good case.
Yeah.
So,
Again, and this
throwing
is
that out.
this is exactly why this is exactly why last week I had questions about the star map of Star Wars galaxies. I was really questioning because again, one thing that wasn't really making sense to me last week was okay, how are they going to get to Mustafar to fight? Because that promo image that everybody has now remembered, hey, wait a minute, where's Mustafar? Aren't they supposed to fight on Mustafar? No, it was a promotional image to get everybody on board with the idea of Darth Vader and Obi-Wan fighting again. And again, is it a little bit of a trick? Yes, but it worked. It definitely worked. We got the numbers for the first two episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. They they are the most watched series on Disney Plus so far. So,
Did we get
like,
those numbers?
I'm pretty sure we did. I think it beat Loki. I that was Snell's big thing was, oh, nothing's beating.
If it beats Loki. If it beats
Well, like
Loki.
he said, if anything had the chance to beat Loki, it will be Obi-Wan, but I have my doubts. That was Snell's thing about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I
That's
still
all I
thought
heard for months. All I heard for months.
I still think Ahsoka has a chance to beat Loki's numbers, but we shall see. Now, I was really questioning about the star map and how everything is because I just didn't think it would have made a whole lot of sense for these characters to be in the destinations that they need to be in order for this story to flesh out the way it did. But Deborah Chow was like, "Ha, I got the magic of Star Wars and the headcanon of freaking hyperspeed." Boom. It doesn't need to be explained because, of course, Star Wars. That's all you have to do. It's Star Wars. Um, but going back to Riva, I will say this: she had a really great performance in her last moments in this episode, but
Yep.
everything leading up to that was a little hard to watch. And like I understand she is weak. She had just been stabbed by Darth Vader. She probably hasn't jumped into a bacta tank or hasn't taken any med packs or anything. So she is weak. But like as somebody as powerful and as angry as Riva, Beru and Owen should not have been able to fight off an Inquisitor with a double bladed lightsaber.
But I think that shows kind of emotional turmoil that she was going through. She became, in this essence, the very thing that she was afraid of. The whole reason that she had become an inquisitor to get back at Anakin Skywalker was because she and her friends were hunted in the Jedi Temple. And so she comes after Luke in this, and she's battling with it constantly, going, I'm taking all these people out, like, but like I really want revenge. I want revenge on Kenobi. I want revenge on Anakin. Anakin, and it like she obviously put together that Luke is Anakin's kid. Like that's is that obvious to you? Because that was obvious to me.
Uh, I I don't know. To me it was not, in the sense of how Bale was saying in the message, if he finds out about the children, blah blah blah. Like because I still don't know how Riva could be like, okay, yes, like Anakin had children with Padme. Like, like I still
Well,
think
it
there.
doesn't have to be Padme. It doesn't have to be Padme. He could have had sex with a prostitute, and the prostitute got pregnant.
I
Nobody
I
has to
guess
know
you
it was Padme.
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. I guess I never really thought about that then. Just the fact that, like, oh, they in fact do have children in their possession and they're important to Obi-Wan, Bale, and to everything that is going on with Darth Vader. So I guess you're right in the sense of, like, maybe she did connect those dots.
Yeah. So for me, watching Moses Ingram perform in her scenes, it was very much an emotional turmoil trying to figure out where does she truly belong in this, especially now that Vader's let her go. What is her place in the world? And I think they left the door open absolutely perfectly to kind of allow for exploration, whether she goes to the rebellion and joins up, whether that's season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Riva is trying to train her way out of inquisitorialness and is working towards protecting Luke. We had talked about that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, where do you think we see her next? Because the whole confrontation with Owen and Beirut happened. She chased after Luke. She couldn't kill him because she basically, at the end, she even asks, "Did I become him?" Talking about Darth Vader, um, and he says, "No, you actually did good to your fellow younglings and all of that." And, like, where does she go from here? Is she going to be an apprentice of Ben? Is she gonna go out and basically be a quote unquote Cal Kestis and just help the rebellion in random places? You know,
Mhm.
um, I am very interested to see where her character goes. She did not become the next Star Killer, like I thought. Um, but I'm okay with it. It was just a shot in the dark prediction. Um, and it ended up being the exact opposite. I and I felt like some people thought, hey, she's probably gonna turn good in the end. I never thought that. So this was a little bit of a nice twist, especially with how good that performance was when she just broke down in front of Obi-Wan. Um, I really enjoyed that performance.
Yeah. And I like you can see there's so much heartbreak in her at that point and trying to figure that out. It was really well done. And like to make the point where you said Baru and Owen shouldn't have been able to take her down. I think we've learned a lot from the High Republic and other books, and that's something that we've tried to talk about here, is that the Force is inherently connected to your mental well-being. So if you're struggling, if you're in emotional turmoil, you may not be able to control the Force as well, and you may have to be dependent on your physical skills. But if you can achieve stability and no, I'm trying to put this in the right way, y'all. Like, if you can kind of get more confidence back in yourself, then you're able to use the Force, um, in amazing ways. So I think an important thing to take into consideration with not only Reva having issues with Beru and Lars, um sh she was in emotional turmoil whether or not she truly wanted to kill Luke and turn him into her friends at the Jedi Temple, and she was injured, but, like, ultimately, it's the emotional turmoil that kind of takes her down in essence and allows her to be opened up. I mean, anyone can be overwhelmed. Like we've seen it. We saw the Jedi Master who was protecting the younglings in episode 1 kind of get overwhelmed by clone troopers.
Yeah.
So, I think you have to take the series as a whole and go, okay, Moses Ingram is phenomenal and Reva's now one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So, and you the emotional turmoil aspect you have to then apply to Ben um in his fight with Darth Vader. We get an epic scene with him levitating the rocks just like Rey does in The Last Jedi. And I saw some people complaining about this. He went from barely being able to hold Leia above the ground to now he can suddenly lift all these things and there's this grand massive display of power.
I feel like now is the perfect time to just like, hey, if you haven't seen Freddie Prinze Jr. rant about Star Wars, go watch Freddie Prinze Jr. rant about Star Wars. And that is what I have to say to all you people complaining. Like it's the one example that he gives in that rant,
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
basically, but more so like the very important things, the fundamental thing about Star Wars is about balance. So if the dark side of the force is feeling very overpowered, the force will correct itself. And at that moment, it was like, hey, we're going to give a power boost to Obi-Wan real quick. And they did. And it happened. And it was awesome. I'm sorry. Like, was it a little
I
hilarious that Darth Vader like was getting pummeled by rocks? Yeah, a little bit. I chuckled a little bit. But then what happened afterward and the emotional scene there. So let's go ahead and move towards that direction. I will ask you one thing though before we move to Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. Now that Reva is quote unquote good, is she one gonna purify her red lightsaber to be white, or is she gonna get a new colored lightsaber? And what color do you think she should have?
Everyone was thinking that she buried her lightsaber on Tatooine, and like somebody talked about the Force Collector because he goes to Tatooine and looks for lightsabers. So, like I don't. I think she keeps the lightsaber. I think she's working with Ben and that she went off and was kind of looking for a new place for them to live, which is where Ben is headed to, and so they can slowly work together. Um, and that she will then purify her lightsaber. She could also just hook up with Ahsoka, and we could see Reba come back in Ahsoka. I don't know, whatever works. I want to see Moses Ingram portray her again. Like that is what it is. Um, because at this point Ilum has already been decimated for kyber crystals, and all of the old Jedi lightsabers have also kind of been picked through, kyber crystals taken and everything. So I don't think we're gonna see her get a new blade. I think it'll be if she comes back with a lightsaber at all, it's going to be from her dual bladed red that she purifies. She
Yeah.
could also she could also pull an Asajj Ventress and just go, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna bounty hunt, and I'm just gonna stick with the red. She could totally do that.
Yeah, that could totally happen. I would not be disappointed at that at all. I still think that red is. I saw this TikTok recently of this guy that was the only individual that built a red lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge, and like the kid right next to him looked at everybody's lightsaber and then looked at his and like legit had like the fear of God in his eyes because somebody actually chose a red lightsaber. That is hilarious. Um, but let's move to again another emotional scene with the fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
All right,
So
my one. my one nitpick, other than the lighting, um, which I think that's just a Disney Plus problem in general. My one problem is that Ben, Obi-Wan Kenobi, whatever you want to call him, that Ben says, "Then my friend is truly dead." I wish he had said brother there.
I think it would have been a more appropriate.
Mhm.
My problem, my nitpick with this is before he lands onto this planet, he is talking to Qui-Gon on this ship, and he says, I think I have to face him. I think I have to fight him, whether I die or he dies. So he is in it to win it. He is like, I'm going to have to kill Darth Vader.
And he still leaves him alive,
And he
which obviously
walks.
you have to because
Oh,
original trilogy.
yes, I know you have to, but I feel like the wording on that ship, whether I die or he dies, should not have been in the show.
Yeah,
Even if he
that
would have kept
really,
it eternal, I think it would have been fine. But like verbalizing it so the audience can hear it, it's like, okay, he's ready to kill him. Because again, if somebody is watching the Star Wars franchise for the very first time, this can work. In chronological order, this can work. But
mhm,
for most individuals right now, they've seen majority of Star Wars. They know that Darth Vader is in, the future of this
yep,
timeline. So letting him walk away after having the mindset, "Oh, I'm going to kill him," it just doesn't feel right, you know?
yeah, that's and I say that's a nitpick, that's more of like a, did we really need to make this choice? Like, I
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's a bigger critique of the story just as a whole, um, and so I don't know what their goal was with that. I really don't, and I wish I did. Um, and because I was at the point where Obi-Wan is buried underneath the rocks, and I said, okay, he's gonna just hold himself under the rocks. Darth Vader's gonna fly off. He thinks he killed Obi-Wan. End of the story. We're good. Golden, grand, whatever. And that's not to say that the badassery that takes place after that is not very cool. But again, it's the whole like, okay, you just need to get away from him. Why are you doing this? Because you
Yeah.
just need to get back to Luke. That's your one and only goal here, right? Is to protect the kids. So, eh,
Now, what happens immediately after he comes out, like we said, the rocks pummeling Darth Vader and having this very awesome, like, I saw somebody say, so they cracked, or Obi-Wan cracks the left side of Anakin's mask, and then in the future, Ahsoka will eventually crack the right side of his mask, seeing both parts of Anakin. Um, but you see this conversation between the two, and you really get this, like, the emotion in Anakin's voice, or excuse me, Darth Vader's voice. Um, legit, it took me back to Revenge of the Sith. It had all of
I
that raw emotion.
I lost it hearing Hayden come through with like the Darth Vader vocabulator coming around it. I just and I'm
It
still about to lose
was
it. Like
it's
it
so good.
was
It was emotional. I loved it. And like even even at the moment where Obi-Wan sees his face, he stops and says, "Anakin?" Because like you can look at
Mhm.
a mask all day and say, "Oh, that's Darth Vader." But when you see him, like he has to freeze. He has to say, "Oh crap, this is my brother," you know? Uh
Yep.
I the moment that, like, what does he say? He says, "Oh, you didn't kill Anakin. I killed Anakin."
And you could say that's in answer to one of the throwaway lines from A New Hope. But I think that was a very powerful way for Vader to try and continue to one up Kenobi continuously. He doesn't want he feels so guilty when it comes to Obi-Wan, when it comes to Padme, when it comes to Ahsoka, that he does not want Obi-Wan to take responsibility for turning Anakin, which is what Obi-Wan thinks, is that he lost Anakin over and over again. That's what rides him with guilt. And so this statement from Vader, "You did not kill Anakin Skywalker, I did," is a it's a hint of Anakin coming through because he's like, I need to take that responsibility for myself, but it's also to one up Kenobi and not giving Kenobi that right to
Yeah.
fully take on that responsibility. It keeps him on the dark side. It was a really great line. I just really Heinz is in the chat. He
Yes,
said, "OMG, that was awesome."
he has officially seen the episode. I just saw our GUA chat on Twitter. He was the last one to finish the episode today. Um, but the performance between Hayden and Ewan here was immaculate. I absolutely loved it. And Snell made us, yes, I'm going to say it again, a snide comment about, he said, fuck Revenge of the Sith, and talking about how, you know, what Ewan and Hayden do is a dance, with the choreography and stuff. And I'm completely okay with that because that's what it is. When you are learning sword fighting, when you're learning fencing and everything else, the one comparison is that it's a dance, and that is a okay, because this choreography was awesome. I absolutely loved it, even with the complications of the cape and Vader's
Mhm.
bulkiness. Everything looked awesome. I absolutely loved it. The only thing that was a little janky was the final blow that Obi-Wan did to actually crack his mask. Didn't quite make sense to me. It was like this weird, like,
Yeah.
spiral. It was almost like how Palpatine did to lunge towards Mace Windu and
Mhm.
all of the other masters, but at
Yeah.
a very short range. It looked very odd. But other than that, everything else was great. I absolutely love it. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's so fan service," when, like, they started the fight exactly how they started the fight in Revenge of the Sith. Uh, then I will do what I must. You will try. All of that stuff. They did the exact same thing, and it's good. Fan service is good for fans, and that's what we are. We're fans. I loved it. Now, S Bubs
But it
made a
also makes it also makes sense them doing that is because that's what they do. They were literally master and apprentice, and they taught each other how to duel. Like, Obi-Wan
yeah,
taught Anakin how to duel. Like, so they know this rhythm and, like, using the Force and saber fighting, it's like riding a bike. You do it they literally do it so much that it's like riding a bike when you pick back up on it.
yeah,
Anakin has probably faced Obi-Wan Kenobi hundreds of times in
yeah,
practice fights, and that's probably exactly how they started their sword fights over and over and over again.
yeah. And I really enjoyed the line that Darth Vader says. He's like, "Oh, you've regained your strength, but the weakness still remains." And that's they used a lot of force powers here that looked amazing. The force pushing. It was something that I felt like was very in the advantage of Obi-Wan when they were like fighting with their lightsabers, and Obi-Wan would push Vader a little bit. It was keeping him on the ropes, and I loved it. I loved all of this. Um, S-Bubs made a comment about what happens immediately after when he walks away gets into the ship, Espub says Obi-Wan's ship should have been decimated in the atmosphere with how fast he was coming into land on Tatooine. Um, Again, this is just like the way we complained a little bit about Riva teleporting to
Teleporting.
to Tatooine. Um, Obi-Wan definitely uh hyperspeed jumped way too quickly, and it happened like instantaneously. Um, but again, it's Star Wars. Like, what are you gonna do? You know. Uh, but I think that's really all I have for the Darth Vader fight. I can just go googly eyed about how great the colors were. Again, this, like you said, really great watching this at 2 a.m. because it's dark. The red and blue really shining on my face and stuff. It was great. It was just great.
And there's something to be said about that natural lighting, and we've talked about it before with the lightsabers. I think it's really cool, but I also think that creators as a whole need to look back and go, okay, maybe we need to just make things a little more clear instead of trying to do things in a more natural way. So I think that's important. So um so taking off, we've kind of already talked about the final scene with Riva on
Yes.
screen. So I need to talk about the Luke scene first because I love the final costume that we kind of get Obi-Wan in
Yes.
because it looks, and I can do this because I have these now. It looks incredibly like this costume cover. Shit.
Yes. It is the costume cover that was revealed in, oh shoot, which I don't
This
remember
is Star
which
Wars
comic.
2015 Volume 3.
Yes, yes. Volume 3. Uh and it looks exactly like ripped from the page, honestly, with the
Yeah.
goggles, the pure white robe, and like the brown vest. It looks really really good. I really enjoy when they do that, just because like, you know, when people say, "Oh, comics don't matter." Boom. Yes, they do, you know. Uh but with this Luke scene, um I enjoyed this. Uh Especially because it comes full circle from where we were at the very first episode with,
Full circle.
yes.
Sorry, I write for Full Circle Cinema, so we have a running plan every time that comes out. Sorry.
uh but it does come all the way back around from episode 1 with how much Owen and Ben were not necessarily arguing, but they weren't on the same page when it came to Luke's future and everything else. And Obi-Wan just straight up says he needs to be a kid. He needs to not worry about all this stuff. You know,
Mhm.
we will get there when we get there, and let's just see how things go. And that's when you get Owen saying, "Ben, do you want to meet him?" And we finally get the famous words, "Hello there."
Hello there. I say that every morning on our stand-up, like, hello there.
It's I I try not to use it too many times, just because have used it too many times in the past, and my brother will constantly tell me, "Shut up, we're tired of hearing it." Um, but I I question some things because of this whole interaction with Luke and how involved he was. I also just want to say this, um, uh, Bonnie Picey or right? Is that
Pièce? I didn't
Pace?
I thought it was pièce.
Okay, Bonnie Pace. I'm so glad that they got her to actually have some very important scenes in the
Yep.
series. If people do not know, she was kind of thrown into the Nexium sex cult um, many years ago. And she was one of the whistleblowers, and she got out of it, and she wasn't entirely sure if she was ever going to be able to find work again. And Star Wars was able to greet her back with open arms, and I absolutely love that. Um, but uh, having her be the soldier and like hiding the guns from Owen, she's like, "Here you go, let's do this. We're gonna have to fight all on our own. We're not gonna put anybody else in danger, and we're gonna protect
Mhm.
Luke." I thought that was awesome.
And, y'all, we talked about this on the Queen's Hope review, um, but she is actually featured in that. She works and helps, slaves get away from their masters by taking their tracking chips out. So, to see that Beru actually come to screens was really cool, and I loved getting to see her.
Now, moving on, because there's two cameos, but before we get to the two cameos, let's go ahead and do the very emotional conversation between Leia and Obi-Wan. Uh, he goes back to Alderaan. We see this cute little like setup for Leia where she's like getting dressed, she's fixing her hair, and like her mother comes out and she's like, "Is that a holster?" And Leia's
Because she
just
has
like,
Paula's holster. We didn't talk about that.
"Yes, yes." Luke, I'm not Luke. Sorry, Obi-Wan did give her the holster, which I don't know how the holster survived a thermal detonator, but
That's
it
what Matt
happens.
said. That's what Matt said.
Uh, but I'm glad she has it. And again, this does just like gives so much weight to when Leia eventually gets Obi-Wan. Uh, she does have that holster in a lot of the
That's what we were assuming, is that a lot of people have made the connection, "Oh, okay, maybe that's the holster she."
yeah, in the comics. For our listeners who are not on YouTube right now.
Sorry.
but but
I
this
forget.
conversation but this conversation was so good because this really like again everybody's questioning, well, why does she act like it's like she's never seen or interacted with Ben before? Well, Obi-Wan says it here. We have to be careful, we have to be vigilant, nobody can know about us, all of this stuff. And Leia keeps it like she keeps that so close to the vest for so many years until
Mhm.
she finally has to call Ben. I love that. And then what almost got me like quivering lip was, Leia, I told you that I didn't know your family, that I didn't know your parents. And then he starts
That
to
was
go ahead.
that was the second part that almost made me cry. The first part, which I forgot to talk about, was when Vader has sliced out of his helmet and they have that scene. This was the second scene that
Yeah.
almost got me.
Obi-Wan says, your mother, and like he names all of these characteristics. And he's like, but you're also emotional. You have courage. You have all of these different things. And he's like, that's from your father. And I'm just like,
Yep.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. Um, Such a beautiful scene. Um, because we saw very early on that she had a little bit like at 6 years old or 10 years old, however old she is, she was having an identity crisis. And
Mhm.
Obi-Wan was like, "You are a solid individual, and you should know where you come from because you are so strong." And it was awesome. I love the scene. Again, a lot of people questioning, why would Obi-Wan even like try to come back and like compromise things? I think it was important because he made a promise. He made a promise to Leia right
Yep.
before he left the ship. He says, she says, "Please come back to me." And he said, "I promise." Like, don't make Obi-Wan a liar, guys. Like, I'm sorry.
Eh, and, like, a lot of people, and this isn't in this scene, y'all, but it's when he has, like, he's buried underneath the rocks, and he sees Luke, and then he sees Leia, and we just kinda get flashes, back and forth with kind of the footage we've already seen. Somebody put that next to the A New Hope fight where Obi-Wan sees the twins running out. He sees Luke and Leia running out, and then he just gives up after that. All his life, he's just wanted to reunite them into a place where they would be okay together, and he did that, and that's the 3rd place that got me, and I actually did like, seeing that, as like, "Oh my gosh, the connections," like, ugh! The best thing a prequel can do for something is to enhance the viewings that you get for what comes after it. And that Obi-Wan Kenobi really did that. So
Yeah. But let's do the first cameo first. We see Mustafar from like far above. We get this zoom in. We see Vader.
oh yeah, I was you said two cameos, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's just one cameo. Yeah, you're right. There's two cameos. Did you freeze?
So we had heard that Ian was going to make an
You didn't
appearance
hear anything I
somewhere.
just said, y'all.
Uh,
Did you
the
hear what I
what the
said?
yeah the like the what the fuck are we talking about? Or
Yeah, because you froze for like
oh, I
20
did. No,
seconds.
no, no. I heard you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yeah. So the we had heard that Ian was gonna be making an appearance somewhere soon because he said it, and we're like, well, what in the hell does that even mean? And did we make the assumption that it was gonna be in here, or did we think that it was going to actually be in animated?
We said it could have been multiple places. We said it could have been here. And then we said it could have been animated. Because he was in the Bad Batch season 1.
That's right.
So he could
Yes.
have been in Bad Batch. He could be in Bad Batch season 2 as well. So it just kind of whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So it was
Um,
here.
I really enjoyed this scene because it just shows how manipulative Palpatine is. It's like, oh, well, I mean, if you're not up for it, Vader, maybe, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Like gaslighting him so much. And Vader's just like, no, like Obi-Wan is not a problem. We're gonna, it's gonna be fine. I only serve you, master.
Yep.
Uh Again, a very small scene, but it does give you those connections again. It does reestablish, hey, Vader may be a badass. He may be like a Sith, but he still has a master.
Yep.
Which I still enjoy.
And I know a lot of people have been complaining about this, but I think this is the perfect place to put in the Imperial March.
Oh yeah. It's because it's so tied to both of them. Yeah, I understand that it's
Yeah.
tied to Vader, but like I'm pretty well no, I was gonna
It's
say I'm
not the
pretty sure.
Vader theme.
Yeah. So I was okay with it. Like as soon as I heard the Imperial March, I was like, fuck yeah. Like I didn't even think throughout the series, where's the Imperial March? Where's the Imperial March? Because he was such a presence already, you know?
Mhm.
I feel like the Imperial March is a little bit of a cameo within itself, but like this series showed that Vader doesn't need the Imperial March to
Yeah.
show that he is coming. He proved, hey, I could just kill a lot of people real quick, and then I'm coming.
Yep.
But the final cameo, we kind of already gave it away in our non-spoiler thoughts, but I was not expecting the full apparition of
No, I
Qui-Gon
wasn't
Jinn.
either.
He looks good.
Yeah. Liam Neeson looked good.
I think that he did good. Now, I know that some people are complaining that the conversation was very short. It was very small, but like I feel like it would have been very odd to have like a 5 to 10-minute conversation between them two. But I I could see Obi-Wan just making a small comment of like, I know I can do better. Like I failed Anakin and whatever. And I did make this comment towards the Geekverse guys. Like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon now share a very unique like situation. Qui-Gon's master jumped to the dark side, whereas Obi-Wan's apprentice went to the dark side.
Yep.
So they now share kind of that like feeling of like how that felt, you know. And so I feel like there could have been a small conversation about that, very very small. But I still enjoyed the conversation. I think Obi-Wan says, "Oh, Qui-Gon, you're here. You know, you showed up or whatever," kind of insinuating, "Hey, this is the first time you've showed up." And Qui-Gon was like, "What are you talking about? I've been here the entire time. You just weren't ready to see me." And again, that does show the growth that Obi-Wan has from episode 1 to this final episode. And I can't remember who said it on Twitter, but I did see that people were noticing that like Obi-Wan even looks older in episode 1 compared to how he is looking in episode 6, kind of getting like a rejuvenation of like,
Yeah.
hey, I can be this individual that can be the protector of Luke and possibly do more. Which well, give me your thoughts about Qui-Gon.
I thought it was a good appearance. I would love to see just like a little short where like Obi-Wan's just like cooking dinner and like, Master, I don't know why you're not talking to me. And Qui-Gon's like, I'm here, you dumbass. Like, just like get yourself together, get your shit together. Like, I'd love to see that. It will never happen, but
I
um
what I need now is somebody, because people have the power and skills to do this. I need every single scene of like Obi-Wan getting either his ass whooped, him having a very inner monologue conversation with himself, or Qui-Gon, uh, or like him breaking down and Qui-Gon just standing there like, bro, like I'm right here. Like you said, get your shit together. Like you could possibly talk to me right now, but you just like, come on, come on. Um, but this does bring us to the end, and we do have some questions. Brent put in a very last minute question, um, which I am very eager to see your opinion on this, um, because I think that I can kind of stretch out one more question out of his two questions that he has. First question: do you want a season 2? And tell us why.
I need a season 2 for some of the characters involved. I don't need a season 2 for Obi-Wan. I want a season 2 for Reva. I want a season 2 for Roken and Haja. I don't need an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2.
Okay, because that leads me to my self question, that I was going to stretch out into this was, uh, do you want a Reva show?
I don't know if I want a Reva show in particular, but then again, I said I didn't want an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So I trust the creators of Star Wars 95% of the time. I always believe in the I believe it when I see it kind of thing, and I'll watch it and I'll make the decision. So
It would have a very unique spin on it, but my fear is that a Reva show, now with what we have seen her go through in Obi-Wan, would be too similar to Obi-Wan. Her idea of going down this dark path, following Vader only to attempt to kill him, to only fail and then try to kill his son. Like, and I feel like there would be a lot of like the sadness moments and then eventually become this rebel that would help, you know, the light side of the force. Um I think I could enjoy the show, but I need to see who is behind it. Um,
yeah.
I think if Deborah wanted to do that, I would fully support her in doing that. But I think the only other individual that I would like to see that from, if not Deborah, would be Bryce Dallas Howard. Um, but the second question from Brent is, would you
Well, you didn't
want?
answer. Do you want a season 2 of Obi-Wan
Oh,
Kenobi?
okay. Um, I it's really hard because the way they left it was the like one of the very last lines, and I think it is the very last line. Qui-Gon Jinn says, "Come on, there's plenty of stuff to learn." As in, like, "Hey, let's go on to season 2."
Yeah.
Um, and now that we've seen what we saw, again, kind of the same argument that we had for even season 1, I don't know where you go. I don't know what you do other than training yourself to become somebody who can be confident in protecting Luke, because again, although they did meet, he had his famous line, "Hello there." In episode 4, they don't have this relationship that is like, "Hey, I
Yeah.
know you, you know me. We've been hanging out this entire time." So it can't be about Luke. At least I don't think so. Uh
I'm putting it out there. If you do want a season 2, there is a perfectly titled Kenobi book. If you
yes.
on Tatooine, you could replicate that very,
I
very well, I think.
honestly, well, it's hard because that book takes place almost immediately after, and Luke is still an
But
infant.
he's literally leaving to go find somewhere else to live.
Yes.
And Luke makes a minimal appearance in Kenobi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I
he
I
doesn't
think you
have to
could
make any appearance in an
I was going to say I
adaptation.
think you could do season 2 without Luke, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Um I could see Owen making another appearance in season 2.
Yep.
Um but my
Maybe
god,
dive
like,
into a little bit about the slave trade with Baru.
yeah. You would then learn about oh shoot, the oh, who was the Jedi?
The Jedi
Asherad?
Tusken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Asherad?
Well,
Like,
Asherad was the like mate to the Jedi one, I think.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. But still, like, you
And
could
I
you
think
could
they've changed that a little bit to work with the Tusken Raiders, but again, what the changes they've made has happened after the original trilogy. Obi-Wan could discover something very similar.
yeah, yeah. And then if I could see another crate dragon again, like we did in Mandalorian, like, let's fucking go. Let's do it. But yeah, I think in that aspect. Plus, Ian McGregor has already read the book. He knows exactly where to
Yep.
go. He knows, I think it could work. I think if they wanted to adapt season 2 into that Legends book and then make all of that canon, I think it would be great. I think it would be really, really fun. But Brent's second question: would you want a Vader show?
I think you can. I don't know if I want Vader back, and I want Hayden back as Vader. I don't know how you do it though, because there's so much that's being explored in the comics, and they've shown so far that they really don't want to overlap the storytelling that's happening in the comics with live TV. They're trying to avoid that. So,
True, true. Um, Which really sucks because, like, there's been some recent stuff that I've been reading and
yeah.
even older stuff, and because I said this a while back. I can't remember which show that I said it on, but it was on the GUA. There has never been a bad Darth Vader comic. Like, I have never read a bad Darth Vader comic.
You could argue what's happening right now with Greg Pak's Darth Vader, I think.
I have not caught up yet. I've only read the first 3 or 4 issues. Um and it's interesting.
Uh,
uh I think that, but see right here, so Sam is coming into the chat. He says that Anakin is a murderer and all of this stuff. I do think, like, although, like, because something very serious that I really appreciate Lucasfilm and Disney Plus doing. at the very beginning of each one of these episodes, they have put a trigger warning there. Um,
Yep.
Very unfortunate that this ended up uh, being released around the same time as what happened in Uvalde, which is very, very close to me. Um, but that brings so much weight. And there's moments, I don't know if you've read this yet, but it's been all over Twitter, all over Facebook. But there's a moment where Vader is like holding C3PO's head and is just remembering the days of when he like built him.
Hmm.
Like I would kind of want to see that. Like I know that I've read it,
Yeah.
but like again, not discounting comics whatsoever because I read them on the daily. I love comics. But there is stuff that I would like to see in live action to be able to say like I can't believe they were actually able to pull that off, you know? Um I think a Vader show can work. Um but I do think in order for it to work, you kind of like you said, you have to jump through the hoops of the comic, and then you also have to build another Riva type. Not necessarily Riva, but in the sense of new character, a new obstacle for Vader, um, in order to make it worth it because every protagonist needs an antagonist. And in that
Yep.
series, Vader would be the protagonist. So it would be interesting for them to make, but I would still like to see it.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely want to see it. I just don't know how you do it, and I want it. It needs to be done right. So
Yeah,
I think that brings us to the conclusion? Question mark.
I think it does. Of course, you can always find me at fanboyclay on Twitter. Uh, go into the link tree in my bio. You can find the links to all the shows that I host, that including uh, DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and Star Wars Alliance right here. Um, it's going to be a little sad not having a new show to talk about every single week, but like we teased, like we said, there is some things happening right now behind the scenes that we are very, very excited about talking about, and you will get all of that very, very soon. But Katie, what about you?
Y'all, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. That is also the new URL, the new domain for my website. So easy pickings. I've moved on from Slice of Scribbles. We're gonna go in the direction of Slice of Katie, everything. So you can check me out there. This show you can find on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Lines without the 8 in the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. And my other show on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network is Slice of Film, and it is on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. And what's up next for that show? We have Elvis coming up. So we will be recording that on Sunday. Clay is going to join in the fun. Um, and so I'm very excited about that. We could talk about that after. Um, So, y'all, what's coming up next for Star Wars Alliance? Next week, we will be talking about Stories of Jedi and Sith. That is a short story collection that covers Asajj Ventress, Maul. I think there's a Ray Poe story in there. I haven't gotten to that yet, so we will be talking about that next week. And then the following week, which will be about a week after, so it's a little soon, but we still hope y'all will check it out. Will be an in-depth review on Shadow of the Sith. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy. We're gonna have some announcements, hopefully Friday. I'm just waiting to see if this thing actually happens, because I don't want to jinx it, y'all. So that's why it hasn't been announced yet. So as soon as it does happen, it will be announced because it's going to come out next week if it does actually happen. So, um, with that, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.